Snark Squad watching this show
has confirmed something for us.
Los Angeles
Is not a real place.
Like, yes.
It exists.
We've been.
But babes, these mansions, these pools, it feels like another planet.
It completely does. It genuinely feels like a simulation that was, I don't know, programmed by someone who only drinks iced matcha and has never experienced a real emotion.
Right, like an emotion that couldn't be fixed by an infrared sauna and a crystal grid.
Exactly.
We need to talk about when we went to L.A.
Oh, my God.
A few years ago. Because I want you, the listener, right now, to picture yourself stepping off the plane at LAX.
The delusion begins immediately at baggage claim.
It really does. You have this expectation of the aesthetic, like the quiet luxury, the effortless glow.
Yeah.
You think you are going to absorb that energy through osmosis.
You really do.
But the reality,
babes,
it was chaotic.
So chaotic.
Yeah.
It fundamentally rewires how you view these people on our screens.
Let the record show, the delusion is entirely contagious. Because we booked this tiny, criminally overpriced rental in West Hollywood.
Oh, the cozy bungalow.
Yes. The listing literally said cozy bungalow, which, for those who don't speak LA real estate, is code for converted garage where the foot of the bed touches a mini fridge.
It was so small, if you opened the bathroom door, it hit the kitchen sink.
The physical infrastructure of the city itself is just built on this grand illusion, you know?
Yeah.
Like you pay premium prices for a veneer of glamour that is literally flaking off at the baseboards.
And the culture shock. Picture us, right, walking down Santa Monica Boulevard.
Oh, don't remind me.
We put on our absolute best outfits. Back home, we look like solid 10s.
We were turning heads in our hometown.
Totally.
Yeah.
But in West Hollywood, surrounded by people who treat, like, physical optimization as a full-time career, we looked like we were reporting for a shift at a regional mall.
Literally a mall kiosk. Every single person we passed looked like they had a dedicated hydration coach following them around.
Hydration coach,
Yeah.
yes.
And you have people casually sitting in 3 hours of traffic, entirely unbothered, just sipping on green juices that cost more than our entire daily per diem.
Wait, we have to talk about the juice.
It's a commodification of wellness as a status symbol, honestly.
Because that $25 green juice isn't just a beverage.
No, it's a signaling mechanism.
Yeah.
It tells everyone around you that you have the disposable income and, frankly, the infinite free time to prioritize cellular regeneration.
Cellular regeneration, I'm screaming. But the moment that broke me, like the moment I realized LA operates in a different dimension, was at that brunch spot.
Oh, the brunch spot. I know exactly what you're going to say.
You sit down, right? You're starving. You're ready for a normal carbohydrate. And the waitress hands you a menu that is entirely QR code-based.
Naturally.
She looks at us completely deadpan and says, "Just so you know, our kitchen is completely seed oil free. We only serve activated almonds, and our water is infused with the intentions of the chef."
Infused with intentions.
What does that even mean?
I vividly remember you almost starting to cry because you just wanted a hash brown fried in regular unactivated oil.
I just wanted a potato,
Yeah.
a dirty, greasy potato, but everyone around us was just nodding. Like, yes, of course. Infuse my water with intentions, thank you.
They didn't even blink.
No. And watching the footage this week, seeing these cast members navigate their lives, their parties, their literal medical procedures with this bizarre, detached mentality, it all clicked.
It's not a bid.
It's not. This isn't just a TV persona. It is a completely different reality where baseline human struggles are filtered through a lens of absolute privilege and just like profound emotional detachment.
It's an alternate psychological ecosystem.
Yeah.
And speaking of navigating delusion, we need to say something to you, the Snark Squad.
Yes, we do. Babes, we love you.
The DMs this week, nonstop.
Nonstop, and we are obsessed.
Your messages genuinely give us life. It makes us feel so much better about our own chaos.
So much better. So it's time.
It is time.
Shady, snarky, or stupid.
For those of you who are new, let me explain the game quickly. We read your most chaotic, messy, unhinged DMs, the life situations you find yourselves in, and we dissect the psychology behind them.
We rule if the behavior described is shady, snarky, or just flat out stupid.
Exactly. And the submissions this week, I mean, they read like rejected Bravo scripts.
I am not exaggerating. Okay, submission number 1. This is a messy relationship situation with a horrible twist.
Brace yourselves.
My fiance wants me to leave my 3-month-old newborn with a sitter so we can have a date night and get our old sex life back. When I told my therapist I hated the idea, my therapist said, "What's 15 minutes out of your day?"
Wow. I need to take a deep, cleansing breath before I respond to
I'm
this.
vibrating with rage.
Because the analytical part of my brain is genuinely short-circuiting at the malpractice of that therapist.
Malpractice, exactly.
Let's dissect the mechanics of what is happening here.
Right.
This fiancé is essentially asking for a physical transaction at the expense of his partner's autonomy.
Yep.
He wants a physical release, and he's dressing it up in the romanticized language of getting our old life back.
Which is such a toxic narrative. 3 months postpartum means you are barely out of the 4th trimester.
Darely.
We need to talk about the biological and psychological reality of this because society acts like once the baby is out, you just bounce back.
This is a myth.
A complete myth. Medically, your hormones like estrogen and progesterone have just plummeted. Your pelvic floor is traumatized.
You're operating on fragmented sleep.
Fragmented sleep that literally mimics military torture protocols. You are touched out from a baby, constantly needing your physical body for survival, and this man is whining about his needs.
It's a complete lack of emotional intelligence on his part. But the therapist co-signing this,
Don't even get me started on the therapist.
that is the most alarming part. The therapist is normalizing performative intimacy. They are stripping away the emotional connection required for healthy intimacy and reducing it to a bodily chore.
What's 15 minutes? I want to scream.
It's not about the time. It's about the psychological damage of dissociating from your own body to service someone else's physical urge. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology.
So what's your verdict?
My verdict is that this is purely stupid. Ignorant, weaponized stupidity.
See, I'm going to push back on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's just stupid. I think it's deeply shady.
Shady. Defend that.
It points to a systemic issue where women's pain and recovery are expected to be invisible, right? The fiancé isn't just stupid. He is actively prioritizing his comfort over her medical recovery.
That's fair.
He knows she just pushed a human out of her body, but he is choosing to ignore that reality because it inconveniences him. That requires a level of calculated selfishness that moves past stupidity and into shadiness.
Okay, that is a very solid counterpoint.
Yeah.
The willful ignorance of her physical reality is a shady choice.
Thank you.
Let's move to submission 2, because the psychology of this next one is equally complex.
Okay, this one is about friend drama, and it escalates. My bestie just got out of an incredibly toxic marriage, and now she's dating a guy with 2 baby mamas who lives out of town, but she swears he's different because he told her everything right away.
Oh, wow. The classic honest mess fallacy.
I just feel so deeply for this friend. You know when you get out of something horrible, your normal meter is just completely broken?
Totally shattered.
You don't know what a red flag looks like anymore because your last relationship was a literal burning building. So when someone hands you a single glass of water, you think they are your savior.
Even if they are standing in a swamp.
Exactly. She's vulnerable, she wants to be loved, and this new guy is likely love bombing her.
Let's define what love bombing actually looks like in this context, because people misuse that term.
Yes, please.
It's not just buying flowers or texting a lot. It's creating a false sense of rapid intimacy. By telling her everything right away, this man is manufacturing vulnerability.
He's trauma dumping.
Exactly. He drops all his heavy baggage on her immediately, the 2 baby mamas, the drama, the distance. And the psychological trick here is that the victim interprets this massive trauma dump as authenticity.
He's being so honest with me, we must have a special connection.
Right. But really, he's just establishing a baseline of chaos.
He's showing her exactly how messy his life is right up front.
So that later, when the drama inevitably spills over, he can say, well, I told you who I was from day one. You knew what you were signing up for.
Ugh, I hate that. It's a manipulation tactic designed to preemptively avoid accountability.
Precisely. It is a blazing, blinding siren of a red flag. She is engaging in a repetition compulsion, seeking out a new chaotic situation because her nervous system is acclimated to the high cortisol levels of her toxic marriage.
Peace feels boring to her right now.
Yes, chaos feels like home. My verdict is shady. The man is preying on her vulnerability, and she is lying to herself.
I agree completely. It hurts my heart, but it is 100% shady.
All right, prepare yourself for the final submission.
It is full chaos. It is unbelievable.
Read it.
My husband is getting a vasectomy and told me his doctor said he needs 10 days of complete bed rest and exactly 35 ejaculations to recover, all while I stay home and take care of our 4 toddlers alone.
I am shutting down.
I am genuinely screaming.
The absolute audacity.
Verdict immediately. Stupid. This husband is the most stupid man on the planet if he thinks his wife, who has birthed 4 children, is going to believe this medical fan fiction.
Wait,
10 days of bed rest for a minor outpatient procedure.
wait. I have to disagree with your verdict. How he's not stupid at all. This is highly calculated.
How can you possibly argue this isn't stupid? It's a completely transparent lie.
Because the intent is what matters.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think a medical professional prescribed 10 days of bed rest for a vasectomy?
Obviously not.
No. The standard recovery is a weekend on the couch with a bag of frozen peas. This man is using a minor medical procedure to secure a 10-day all-inclusive vacation from his responsibilities as a father.
Oh my gosh.
He is relying on weaponized incompetence. He assumes his wife is too overwhelmed with the 4 toddlers to fact-check him.
That is so dark.
He is lying to her face to get out of doing chores and changing diapers.
Yeah.
That is manipulative, premeditated shadiness. He saw an opening for a staycation and he took it.
Wait, you're right. I was looking at how unbelievable the lie was, but you're looking at the strategy behind the lie.
Always look at the strategy.
He's an evil genius. He knows she's drowning in childcare, and instead of throwing her a life preserver, he's booking himself a cruise on a luxury yacht of bed rest.
Exactly.
Okay, I changed my vote. Shady. Definitely shady.
Welcome to the analytical side, bestie. It's cold over here, but we see the matrix clearly.
I love it, and I hate it.
Before we fully descend into the madness of this week's television footage, let's ground ourselves in reality for just a second. Rose and thorn.
Yes, for the upcoming weekend. I need something tangible.
You start.
Okay, my rose is that I have absolutely 0 plans on Saturday. The calendar is entirely blank.
That is a massive flex.
Right. In a world of constant stimulation, a blank Saturday feels like winning the lottery. The possibilities are endless.
And your thorn?
My thorn, however, is that I still haven't put away my laundry from 2 weeks ago, and the pile has now gained sentience.
Oh, no.
It is actively judging my life choices from the corner of my bedroom. I swear it's looking at me right now.
You need to establish dominance over that laundry pile immediately. Do not let it win the psychological warfare.
I'm trying. What's yours?
My rose is that I finally decoded the recipe for that whipped feta dip we had at that horribly overpriced restaurant in the valley.
Shut up, you did.
I did. I will be consuming my body weight in cheese this weekend while avoiding all human contact.
I am coming over.
My thorn is that I have to attend a mandatory family Zoom call on Sunday, and I already know precisely which aunt is going to ask me why I look tired.
Oh, the dreaded tired comment.
Which is basically family code for you look terrible.
It is the most passive-aggressive insult in the English language, sending you immense strength for that Zoom call. But speaking of thorns and people who desperately need to establish dominance, we have to dive into the recap.
The absolute prickery happening on our screens this week.
I have pages of notes. I was pausing, rewinding, analyzing the micro-expressions. This week's footage broke my brain in 6 different places.
It was a masterclass in uncomfortable interpersonal dynamics. Yeah. We're witnessing multiple relationships cracking under the weight of terrible communication. Where do we even begin?
We have to start with the pressure cooker. Kristen and Luke.
Yes.
Because it mirrors our first DM submission almost exactly, but watching it play out visually adds a whole new layer of horror.
It really does. Let's lay out the situational reality for anyone who blocked it out due to secondhand stress. The context is everything here. Kristen is barely out of the 4th trimester. We are talking 3 months postpartum. She has a tiny, fragile newborn.
A literal infant.
And Luke, who operates with the emotional depth of a puddle, decides this is the perfect time to sit her down and pitch a terrible idea.
He essentially says, hey, I know we have an infant, but I want to dump the baby at Brittany's house or hire a stranger so we can go out, get drunk, and get our old sex life back.
The complete lack of situational awareness is staggering.
I was physically pacing my living room watching this. Kristen literally looks at him, exhausted, and says, I hate that idea. I just pushed a baby out of my vagina.
She is setting a clear anatomical boundary.
Yes. Her body is still healing. The mental load of keeping a newborn alive is crushing her. She is existing in a state of hypervigilance, and his primary concern is his own physical gratification.
And this is where we need to unpack the confessional footage, because that's where the real psychological damage was revealed.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Kristen admits that she told her therapist she wasn't ready for intimacy, and her therapist looked at her and said, what is 15 minutes out of your day?
I want the name of this therapist so I can report them to whatever board certified them. How dare you?
It's unbelievable.
As a woman, hearing that, my heart completely shattered for Kristen. It is so unbelievably invalidating. You are telling a new mother who already feels completely disconnected from her own physical form that her bodily autonomy and emotional readiness are secondary to 15 minutes of catering to her partner.
It reinforces this archaic idea that women's bodies exist as public utilities for their partners. It's the clinical endorsement of performative intimacy.
Yes.
The therapist is essentially telling her to disassociate. And logically, let's break down why this is a terrible strategy for Luke, too.
Make it make sense for him, please.
Does he really want that? Has anyone in the history of human relationships ever felt deeply connected after having pity sex?
Never.
You're forcing your partner, who feels bloated, exhausted, and touched out, to endure a physical act out of obligation. The energy in that room would be so dark and resentful.
So dark.
The only thing worse than no sex is bad, obligatory sex. It creates a negative feedback loop where the partner begins to actively dread physical touch because it always leads to a demand.
Exactly. It would save everyone so much trauma if she just bought him a Brandy Glanville OnlyFans subscription and a box of tissues and told him to handle it himself.
Honestly, yes.
Kristen could get the sleep she desperately needs, Luke could manage his own urges, and they wouldn't be building this massive wall of resentment because resentment, especially postpartum resentment, is incredibly insidious.
It doesn't just fade away.
No, it calcifies.
But the worst part, the absolute peak of the toxic iceberg, is the aftermath. Because the pressure campaign clearly works. What happens at the party later in the week?
Oh my God, I wanted to throw my television into the ocean.
I knew you were going to spiral over this.
Luke struts into the birthday party, finds Schwartz, and proudly announces that they finally did it, like he just won a medal in the Olympics.
He is bragging to the boys.
I was so disgusted.
He reduces this incredibly complex emotional and physical hurdle that his partner just forced herself over into locker room currency. Yeah, man, I finally wore her down. I got mine. It strips away any illusion that this was about reconnecting as a couple and proves it was entirely about his ego and his physical release.
It shows a complete lack of respect for Kristen's internal, private experience.
Emily.
This dynamic is a one-way ticket to a dead bedroom. When you pressure a postpartum woman, you aren't just getting what you want in that moment, you are fundamentally stripping the gears of your future intimacy.
She will look at him differently forever.
Always. She will always remember that when she was at her most vulnerable, he prioritized himself.
Speaking of looking at things differently, we have to transition to the Brittany and Zach dynamic.
Yes, let's go there.
Because my analytical brain was doing absolute backflips during these scenes.
Okay, wait. Before we get to the heavy psychological mess, can we just have a moment of genuine appreciation for the sweet part?
The sensory room.
Yes?
Yeah.
Brittany turning her playroom into a sensory room with the swing and the lights for Cruz.
It was a very grounding moment in an otherwise chaotic narrative.
It actually made me emotional. Cruz is autistic, and seeing Brittany actively researching and creating a safe, regulating environment for him that is beautiful, intentional parenting.
It really is.
And when Cruz actually said Zach's name, the look of pure joy on Brittany's face, you can feel that the energy in that house has shifted so dramatically since Jax's negative, suffocating cloud was removed.
The air is lighter.
She is thriving as a mother in that peaceful space.
I will absolutely give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
The physical environment is clearly healthier, and she is stepping up as an advocate for her child. However,
here we go. I knew the however was coming.
The physical environment might be healthier, but Brittany's internal radar, her psychological threat detection system, is still completely busted. Enter Zach.
Zach is the hero we didn't know we needed.
Truly.
He comes over, they celebrate the beautiful milestone with Cruz, and then he immediately pivots to the business at hand. He sits her down and confronts her about her new man, Brandon.
And Zach doesn't just rely on intuition. He comes armed with data. He lays out the resume of chaos.
The resume?
Brandon has 3 kids by 2 different baby mamas. There is active, ongoing drama with the exes. And, to top it off, he lives out of town.
It's a disaster.
This is a logistical and emotional nightmare waiting to happen.
And Brittany's defense, the sheer delusion. She literally looks at Zach and says, well, he told me everything. He didn't lie.
As if confessing to a massive, chaotic life situation somehow magically neutralizes the fact that the chaotic life situation exists.
I was yelling at the screen.
It's the exact same honest mess fallacy we discussed in the DMs earlier. It is the ultimate reality TV paradox. These people equate bluntness with integrity.
Yes, they do.
They think, well, he told me he has 2 baby mamas and a messy custody battle, so he must be an honest, trustworthy man. No. He is a man with a ton of baggage who is testing the waters to see where your boundaries are.
Exactly. He is seeing how much of his mess you're willing to clean up.
And Zach, bless him, goes straight for the jugular. He looks her in the eye and asks the million-dollar question. Do you not see the similarities to Jack's?
The gasp I let out. He held up the mirror, and the reflection was terrifying.
He defined the archetype perfectly. The guy who captivates you with charm, manipulates your empathy, gets exactly what he wants from you, whether that's screen time, a place to stay, or emotional labor, and then moves on.
That is the Jax Taylor playbook.
And Brittany is stepping right back onto the exact same playing field, just wearing a different jersey.
She is a magnet for chaos because it's what she knows. Her denial is a protective shell. She keeps repeating, I've been single for 2 years. Like, that's an airtight defense against making a bad choice.
But Zach shuts it down instantly. No, you're rebounding.
I love him for that.
He is being the ultimate truth teller. He is delivering the hard, brutal reality, littingly but firmly. He is interrupting her narrative. She thinks she's in this empowered single girl era. Zach is forcing her to see the pattern.
I worry for her, I really do. She ignores blaring sirens because she wants the fairy tale so badly, but we know how this ends.
We've seen this movie before.
It ends with her managing another grown man's emotional regulation while he creates chaos.
All right, we need to shift our focus to the event of the season. Sosa's first birthday party.
Lala's bash. First of all, let's talk about the aesthetic and the catering.
I will say, Lala understands the visual grammar of a good event.
But the food. Authentic street tacos. Rice and beans. I was rejoicing in my living room.
You'd love a taco card.
Finally, someone serves real, actual consumable food on reality television. Usually, you get a tower of dry macarons that nobody's allowed to touch and a signature cocktail that looks like radioactive wind dogs.
No.
Seeing people actually eat a taco was the most relatable thing I've seen on this network in years.
It grounded the event in reality.
Yeah.
But the grounding stopped at the taco cart because everything else that happened at that party was pure manufactured chaos, courtesy of producer Lala.
Oh, she was clocking in and working for that paycheck.
Let's analyze the mechanics of this party. On paper, Lala is hosting a first birthday for a toddler. But psychologically, she is hosting a summit for fractured friendships. She is moving the cast members around the board like chess pieces with zero subtlety.
While simultaneously flirting heavily with the lifeguard. She hired a hot, age-appropriate lifeguard for a kiddie pool, and she's leaning over telling him to catch her at nap time.
I kind of respected the chaotic multitasking.
It was so iconic. Flirt with the hired help, force your deeply traumatized friends into uncomfortable confrontations, and make sure the lighting flatters your cheekbones.
Incredibly efficient. You know, Shiana was sitting at home watching this unfold, absolutely fuming that Lala stole her job as the group's designated meddler.
Shiana is somewhere right now tracking Lala's location and crying into a ring light.
Undoubtedly.
But let's talk about the main event of the party.
Yeah.
The apology tour from hell starring Janet.
Janet. I have tried to map out the analytical angle where Janet's behavior makes logical sense. I have tried to find the psychological framework where she is the hero of her own story, and I have failed.
She approaches Jasmine, and Jasmine, by the way, gave us the quote of the season, if not the decade.
A historic quote.
Janet tries to give this convoluted, half-baked apology for speaking on things she wasn't involved in, and Jasmine just looks at her deadpan and says, "In my mind, I had a funeral for you in my brain."
A funeral in my brain. That is poetry.
It's beautiful.
That is the level of finality we all wish we could achieve with toxic people. Jasmine didn't just step back. She mourned the friendship, buried it, put up a headstone, and moved on.
But Janet cannot accept that, because Janet went to therapy. And we all know the terrifying reality of the Bravo therapy curve.
Let's explain the mechanics of the therapy curve for the listeners. Step 1, be an absolute monster to everyone around you. Step 2, attend therapy for roughly 3 weeks, learning a few buzzwords like boundaries and holding space.
Oh, she loves holding space.
Step 3, return to the group and weaponize that therapy speak to demand apologies from the very people you just traumatized.
It is Darvo in action. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. She literally says to Jasmine, "I'm apologizing, but do you have any understanding that an apology would be nice from you for calling me names at the beach?"
The audacity.
She ruins her own apology instantly. You do not get to demand a receipt when you give an apology.
Jasmine nearly choked on her corn dog. Yeah. Jasmine rightfully points out, I called you names because you were aggressively coming at me. And Janet's response, well, I was heated when I did what I did.
Do you see the psychological gymnastics there?
It's fascinating. When Janet is aggressive, it's because she was heated, which implies a temporary loss of control that she shouldn't be blamed for. But when Jasmine reacts to that aggression, it's a character flaw that demands an apology.
Make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense because it's not about resolution. It's about maintaining control. Janet wants the group to acknowledge her growth without her actually having to do the hard, ego-crushing work of true accountability. And when Jasmine refuses to play along with the script, Janet realizes she's losing the narrative of the scene, so she simply flees.
Which brings us to the most terrifying interaction of the entire gathering. Lala, ever the producer, drags Janet over to Nia.
If Jasmine was the poetry of setting boundaries, Nia was the silence of the grave.
I was holding my breath. Lala forces this interaction. Janet walks up, gives this weak, trembling preamble. Hey, congrats on the baby. Anything you want to say or get off your chest, I'm here.
And Nia, the power this woman holds.
Unmatched.
Let's talk about the clinical technique of gray rocking. Gray rocking is a strategy used to deal with manipulative behavior by becoming as uninteresting and unresponsive as a gray rock.
Yes.
You show no emotion, you give short, non-committal answers, and you deny the manipulator the trauma they're seeking. Nia executed a flawless gray rock.
Flawless.
She delivered an unblinking, terrifying death stare. She didn't flinch. She didn't break eye contact. She just gave a single, microscopic nod.
She looked at Janet like Janet was a piece of lint on her sweater. I got chills. I was terrified of Nia in that moment, and I worshipped her.
As you should.
She didn't give Janet a single syllable of usable audio. She starved the beast.
It was a masterclass. Janet thrives on words. She twists them. She weaponizes them. She uses them to build her victim narrative. Nia gave her absolutely nothing to work with.
Nothing.
And without that fuel, Janet crumbled. She literally said, okay, talk to you soon, and scurried away like a rat caught in the daylight.
But the cringe doesn't stop there. Because Janet is so rattled by Nia's silence, her ego needs immediate validation. So she grabs her friend Jared, drags him into a random bedroom in the house, and immediately starts talking trash about Nia.
She doesn't want to go below the surface, blah, blah, blah.
And then the universe intervenes.
The universe, or a producer with impeccable comedic timing.
Right. Nia walks into that exact room to breastfeed her baby.
Maximum cringe. The awkwardness was so thick, you could physically lean against it.
I was burying my face in a pillow.
Janet is caught, red-handed, mid-trash talk, by the very woman she was just pretending to want a deep, authentic reconciliation with.
I live for the awkwardness. Nia handles it with complete grace, excuses herself, walks away, and tells Danny she is officially done with the party.
I don't blame her.
Janet proved right there, unequivocally, that the apology to her was entirely performative.
Exactly. The mask slipped. Which brings us to a completely different type of performative behavior. We need to analyze the aviation bar and the iceberg romance between Jesse and Lacy.
I need to take a shower just thinking about this dynamic.
Let's start with the setting, because the environment always informs the psychology. Zach and Jesse, the two outcasts who weren't invited to the party, meet up at an airplane-themed bar.
A hideous, deeply unsettling airplane-themed bar.
It was an aesthetic hate crime. They're sitting in actual cramped airplane seats. The waitstaff are dressed as flight attendants.
Why?
Why would you willingly subject yourself to the worst, most anxiety-inducing part of commercial travel while trying to have a relaxing cocktail?
It makes no sense.
It makes me judge Jesse's taste even more than I already do, and I genuinely didn't think my opinion of him could drop any lower.
It's so tacky. But the conversation happening in those terrible seats is worse than the decor. Jesse is aggressively trying to rewrite the history of his own life.
Typical Jesse.
He claims that he and Lacy, who he reconnected with after 10 years, are equals in intellect.
Which is not a compliment to Lacy.
Yeah.
It is a direct, calculated shot at his ex-wife, Michelle.
He literally says Michelle was just along for the ride and wasn't participating in their marriage intellectually. I was furious. You don't build up your new partner by tearing down the mother of your child on national television.
It is such small, insecure energy.
So small.
It's deeply insecure. Jesse is a man whose entire identity is built on dominating the room. When Michelle finally stopped feeding that ego, his reality fractured. He needs Lacy to validate his superiority.
But she doesn't.
That is the fascinating psychological twist. Lacy doesn't validate his ego at all. She crushes it, and he secretly loves it.
Let's talk about the dinner date, because it was a master class in power dynamics. They go to a nice dinner. Jesse is clearly desperate for her approval, leaning in, seeking validation.
He's practically panting.
He asks if she would ever consider moving to LA from Orange County.
And Lacy, without missing a single beat, shuts it down completely. She refuses. She says her daughter is in a great school, her family is there, and she is not uprooting her established life for him.
Which, logically, is extremely sound parenting and boundary setting.
Yes.
But it's the delivery. It is completely devoid of warmth.
She is an iceberg.
Oh.
She literally calls him clingy on camera. She brags about how she did well in her divorce, as every woman should.
I couldn't believe it.
She's casually dropping the fact that she's freezing her eggs, essentially telling him, I am keeping my options open, and you are not the sole proprietor of my future.
She is operating like a CEO negotiating a hostile corporate takeover.
She gives me major AI character energy. It's like someone prompted a reality TV villain bot to be as detached as possible.
But Jesse's reaction is what's truly bizarre.
Right. When she calls him clingy, he doesn't get defensive, which is his usual default.
Wow.
He almost preens. He says, she's perfectly hard on me to make sure I keep growing.
He has a humiliation kink. He
Yeah.
has to. Because the kicker, the moment that made me fall off my couch and question everything I know about romance, is at the end of the dinner.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Jesse looks across the table, wearing that stupid slouchy beanie indoors, and says, I love you.
And Lacy looks back at him, unblinking, completely flat, and replies, thank you.
Thank you. I'm still recovering from that. A thank you to an I love you is a verbal death sentence.
It is brutal.
It is the most humiliating, ego-destroying thing you can experience on a date, let alone on camera for the world to see.
I analytically dissect this as an absolute power move. Let's look at the mechanics of what she did. By saying thank you, she is establishing the hierarchy of the relationship.
Yes.
She is telling him, I receive your affection, I acknowledge your submission, but I'm not obligated to return it until you prove your worth to me.
Wow.
She possesses the warmth of a glacier. And Jesse's just sitting there smiling, happy to be allowed to exist in her presence. It's transactional, it's cold, and it is fascinating television.
It is so dark. It's a relationship built on punishment. But speaking of dark, we need to pivot to the salt caves.
Ah, yes.
We need to talk about Schwartz and Michelle.
A pivot from a freezing iceberg to a literal pile of pink Himalayan salt, appropriately LA.
The scene opens, and Schwartz and Michelle are at the Valley Salt Cave for a sound bath.
It is the most cliché LA date activity imaginable. You lie on the floor surrounded by thousands of pounds of imported salt, while a woman hits a gong and asks you to release your trauma into the atmosphere.
But I have to be honest, this scene actually got me. I went into it fully prepared to snark on the absurdity of the gong, but the emotions suddenly felt very real and very grounded.
Because both of them are grieving deeply.
Yes, the context here is incredibly heavy. Michelle had to watch her mother pass away recently, and she admits she hasn't really processed the grief because she's been dealing with the divorce.
And Schwartz is dealing with his own family being in disarray, and his father's health rapidly deteriorating.
When Michelle told him to make sure he talks to his dad as much as possible because she can't talk to her mom anymore, I felt genuine empathy for both of them. It was this surprisingly deep, raw moment in the middle of all this superficial chaos.
You could see the actual pain in their eyes. We need to define what trauma bonding is, because the internet misuses the term constantly.
Yes, please clarify that.
True trauma bonding is an attachment formed between an abuser and a victim. But what we're seeing here is shared trauma connection. They are connecting over profound parallel loss.
It was beautiful.
However, my analytical brain cannot ignore the invisible hand of the production machinery. We have to look at the flirtation that immediately follows the tears.
Right. The sound bath ends, the tears are wiped away, and suddenly Schwartz is pitching a group trip to San Diego, specifically mentioning the Mexican food because he knows Michelle is from the border.
He's working the angle. He is planting the seed for future filming locations.
And then he gives this big dramatic sigh and says he's sad he doesn't have a family anymore, and he's ready to put himself back out there in the dating world.
Classic Schwartz.
And Michelle, without missing a beat, goes, "Oh, let me know what I can do to help."
And in his confessional, he calls her a baddie and a MILF.
I gagged a little at MILF because it's such a reductive term, but honestly, I see the vision of them together. I really do.
Really? You see the vision. Explain the psychology of that to me, because I don't see it.
I do. Think about the mechanics of Michelle's past relationship. Jesse is an aggressive, arrogant, dominating control freak who sucks all the oxygen out of the room.
Accurate.
Michelle spent years trying to manage that intensity. Schwartz, on the other hand, is basically a golden retriever with a drinking problem. He is passive, he goes with the flow, he avoids conflict at all costs, and he just wants people to like him.
He is the exact polar opposite of Jesse.
Exactly. I think Michelle is exhausted by Jesse's intensity, and Schwartz's floppy, goofy, non-threatening energy is a massive psychological relief to her. It's a safe harbor.
That is a well-reasoned argument. But I still view this entirely through the lens of producer manipulation.
You would.
Production knows they need a storyline to make Jesse jealous and to integrate Michelle back into the core group now that she's single. Schwartz is the designated free agent of the cast. He knows his job is to provide safe, slightly flirty date footage to keep the plot moving.
Oh, come on.
Michelle knows her job is to look desirable on camera to secure her spot for next season. It's a mutually beneficial producer-pushed arrangement. Do they have chemistry? Maybe a little, but it's situational chemistry, engineered by a story producer holding a clipboard off camera.
You are so cynical. You strip all the romance out of everything. I think they might actually end up making out in an alley behind SUR by the end of the season.
We will see whose prediction comes true. But we need to move to the final and arguably most enraging dynamic of the week.
Oh, God.
Danny and Naya, the tone-deaf husband.
Where do I even start with this mess?
Let's start at the doctor's office with Zach.
Danny goes to the urologist with Zach for a vasectomy consult. And because Danny operates with the emotional maturity of a 7th grade boy in health class, he spends the entire appointment making cringe-inducing testicle and penis jokes.
While holding a replica model of the male anatomy.
It was unwatchable. He thinks he is a stand-up comedian, and everyone else in the room, including the highly trained medical professional, is just suffering through his tight five.
It was painful. But the real crime happens when he gets home.
The breakdown. The scene shattered me. Danny comes home and he tells Naya, who, as a reminder, is currently raising 4 children under the age of 4, that the doctor said he needs 10 days of complete bed rest.
And that he has to ejaculate 35 times to clear the sperm.
Let's pause right here and look at the facts. We know, factually, from the footage of the doctor speaking on camera, that the medical recommendation was 4 to 6 days of rest.
Danny intentionally doubled the recovery time. He weaponized a medical procedure to secure a 10-day vacation from parenting.
Which is borderline sociopathic when you look at the state of his wife. Nia is visibly unraveling. She is sitting on the couch, physically and emotionally drained.
She looks exhausted.
She tells him she feels completely isolated living out in Santa Clarita, away from her support system. She has 3 toddlers actively destroying the house and a newborn who refuses to take a bottle.
Do you know what that means? It means Nia is the sole food source.
Exactly. She cannot leave the house for more than 2 hours at a time. She is tethered to a demanding infant 24/7.
The house is messy. There are still unpacked boxes everywhere, and she explicitly states, using clear communication, that she is on the verge of total burnout. She's waving a giant neon red flag that says, "I am drowning."
And how does this man, this supposed partner in life, respond to the mother of his 4 children telling him she is drowning?
With a joke.
Does he offer to hire a deep cleaner? Does he say he'll take the toddlers to the park for the afternoon so she can sleep? No. He looks at her, dismisses her emotional plea entirely, and makes a joke about focusing on what's important, all the lovemaking on the calendar.
It is a stunning display of tone deafness. It demonstrates a complete lack of empathy.
I went completely off. I was yelling at my television. The mental load of motherhood is crushing her spine. The invisible labor of keeping 4 tiny humans alive, managing their schedules, their emotions, their nutrition, it is destroying her mental health.
And he is talking about a sex calendar.
You literally watch Nia's face drop in the footage. All the light leaves her eyes. An invisible titanium wall goes up between them in that exact moment. You can see the realization hit her. I am completely alone in this marriage.
Let's break down the stark contrast here, because this is where the analytical mind just explodes at the systemic inequity.
Break it down.
Nia has survived multiple back-to-back pregnancies. She just recently survived a C-section to deliver twins. Let's be clear about what a C-section is. It is major abdominal surgery.
Major.
They cut through 7 layers of skin, fascia, and muscle, move your organs around, extract a human being, and sew you back together.
7 layers.
And what did Naya do after having her abdomen sliced open? She was probably forced to walk around the hospital room the next day to prevent blood clots. She was taking care of a newborn instantly. She was managing the toddlers at home a week later.
It's insane.
Because mothers aren't afforded the luxury of bed rest.
Yeah.
The world expects mothers to bleed, heal, and parent simultaneously.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Meanwhile, Danny is getting a minor outpatient snip, a procedure that takes 20 minutes under local anesthesia and requires a bag of frozen peas. And he is demanding 10 days of being waited on hand and foot while mandated to ejaculate. It's the absolute height of patriarchal entitlement.
It makes me so angry I could spit. He thinks it's a joke. He thinks they are in the honeymoon phase for life. He doesn't see her as a complex human being who is suffering. He sees her as a supporting character in the sitcom of his life.
His lack of awareness is going to destroy their marriage.
It really is.
Exactly. He is entirely disconnected from her reality, which is the perfect thematic transition into segment 1. Reality versus delusion.
Yes. Let's evaluate who is actually living in reality this week. We need to debate who is grounded on planet Earth and who is floating off in the LA stratosphere of delusion. Let's start with who is grounded.
Who demonstrated actual situational awareness. I have a clear frontrunner. Zach.
I totally agree.
Zach is the only person consistently dealing in facts. He didn't sugarcoat the situation with Brittany to spare her feelings. He looked at the data, 2 baby mamas, long-distance, fast-moving relationship, and delivered a logical conclusion based on historical patterns.
He is grounded in reality, and he forces the people around him to look at it too.
Who is your pick?
My pick for grounded is Nia. For her flawless, silent boundaries. She didn't let Janet drag her into a fake reality TV argument. She assessed the situation, realized it was performative, and gave absolutely nothing.
That is a woman who knows exactly what is real and what is fake.
And she refuses to spend her limited energy engaging with the fake.
I would also add Jasmine to that list. Similar to Nia, she held a mental funeral for Janet's friendship. She recognized the toxicity, processed the grief privately, and moved on. She wasn't playing the game of seeking a fake apology on camera.
Okay, so the women of color and the gay best friend are the only ones grounded in reality. Shocking how that works out.
Math is mathing.
Now, who is fully gone? Who has completely lost the plot and is living in a state of pure delusion?
The first one has to be Brittany.
Obviously. Thinking a die with 2 baby mamas who love bombs you instantly isn't exactly like Jax Taylor's premium top-shelf delusion. She's refusing to see the pattern.
The second one is Janet. The cognitive dissonance required to demand an apology from someone while you are currently on an apology tour for your own horrific behavior is staggering.
It's mind-boggling.
She honestly believes she's the victim in every single scenario. Her reality is entirely constructed to protect her ego.
And the third one, without a doubt, is Danny. Thinking 10 days of bed rest and 35 mandated ejaculations is a fair trade while your wife raises 4 kids alone, while recovering from major surgery herself. He is living in a fantasy world.
He is completely blind to his privilege in that house. The delusion is exceptionally strong with the men this week. Let's look at segment 2. Relationship status check.
We need to assess the romantic carnage across the board.
Okay, who is solid? And I use the term solid very loosely, considering the cast we are dealing with.
Extremely loose.
Ironically, I'm going to argue that Jesse and Lacy are solid.
You are insane. She literally said, "Thank you to I love you." How is that solid?
Hear me out. I am arguing they are solid because they are mutually aligned in their dysfunction. A relationship doesn't have to be warm to be stable.
I am listening, but I am skeptical.
They are both using each other in a highly transactional, cold-hearted way, and they both understand the rules of engagement. He needs a hot, intimidating woman on his arm to make his ex jealous and to stroke his masochistic ego. She needs a wealthy, submissive guy to fund her dinners while she freezes her eggs and maintains her fierce independence in Orange County. If it's a business arrangement, the terms are clearly defined, and neither is asking for more than the other is willing to give. They work.
I disagree completely. That relationship is a ticking time bomb. The thank you is a death sentence. You cannot build a foundation on ice.
We'll see.
Jesse is an ego-driven maniac. He is playing the submissive role right now because he's desperate to lock her down, but he is going to crack. Eventually, he will demand warmth, and she is going to shatter him into a million pieces and go back to Orange County without blinking. They are absolutely doomed.
We will have to agree to disagree and see how it plays out. Who do you think is definitively doomed?
Kristen and Luke.
Yes. Unanimous agreement here. The psychology of that dynamic is rotten at the core.
You cannot pressure a postpartum woman for physical intimacy and expect the relationship to survive long-term, period. The resentment is already building in Kristen's eyes. You can see her looking at him across the room and thinking, I am doing everything, my body is destroyed, and you are adding to my plate instead of taking things off.
Once a woman views you as another dependent rather than a partner, the romantic connection is dead. It is doomed.
That relationship will not survive the toddler years. Moving on to segment 3, main character energy. Who is carrying the show this week? Who is putting the narrative on their back and earning their paycheck?
I'm giving it to Zach.
Strong choice. Defend it.
He is the only person capable of crossing the invisible boundary between the boys' drama and the girls' drama. He's versatile. He's at the aviation bar listening to Jesse's delusion. He's at the doctor's office mocking Danny's ridiculous vasectomy demands. And he's in the sensory room dropping hard truth bombs on Brittany.
He is everywhere.
He is the connective tissue of the entire cast right now. Without Zach, we just have a bunch of isolated people being delusional in separate rooms. He is producing without looking like he is producing. It's a skill.
It really is.
Unlike my choice for main character energy, which is Lala.
Oh, she was working hard. She was sweating for that screen time.
Lala secured her paycheck this week. She forced Janet and Nia into a room together, knowing perfectly well it would be an awkward disaster. She flirted with the hired help to give the editors a fun, low-stakes B-plot. She threw a visually stunning party that brought the whole cast together.
She did.
She is the engine driving the plot forward, even if her methods are entirely transparent. She is the invisible hand of production made visible.
She knows the assignment, and she executes it flawlessly. All right, let's look at segment 4. Next episode spiral. Based on the previews, what is about to go wrong?
Looking ahead to next week's footage, the preview showed Brandon arriving.
The man, the myth, the walking red flag. The guy with 2 baby mamas is finally stepping onto the screen to be perceived by the audience.
I predict absolute, unmitigated chaos. Brittany has spent weeks building him up as this perfect, honest savior who is going to rescue her from her Jack's trauma. But when he actually steps on camera, the illusion will break.
Because you can't hide reality from the cameras forever, and Zach is going to be there.
Zach is going to interrogate him. I cannot wait to watch Zach dissect this man's intentions in real time. Brandon is going to crumble under the pressure of the West Hollywood gay gaze.
He thinks he can charm his way through, but Zach is immune to that charm. It's going to be an emotional massacre.
It will be glorious television. We will be analyzing every micro-expression.
Babes, the LA delusion is real. It is a psychological sickness, and these people are heavily infected. But we love studying the symptoms.
The DM chaos from our listeners is thriving. Thank you for sharing your messy lives with us and validating our psychological assessments of these absolute train wrecks.
And our weekend vibes are set. I will be engaging in psychological warfare with my sentient laundry pile, and you will be drowning your sorrows in whipped feta.
It's called self-care. Don't judge my coping mechanisms.
Before we wrap this up, we need to ask you, the Snark Squad. You, sitting right there listening to us on your commute or while you walk your dog.
We need your analytical input. First, is LA a real place? Or is it a shared hallucination funded by reality TV producers?
Second, which dynamic from this week's footage was the wildest to you? Are you Team Nia and her flawless, silent, gray rock boundaries? Or are you somehow inexplicably defending Janet's Darvo tactics? Let us know in the comments.
And tell us, what are your weekend plans? Seriously, drop them below. We need to live vicariously through you if you're doing something more exciting than fighting laundry and eating cheese.
Please remind yourself to rate, review, and subscribe. 5 stars only. If you have less than 5 stars to give, write it in your private journal and take it to your therapist. Do not put it on Apple Podcasts.
Send us your submissions for shady, snarky, or stupid. We want your messiest relationship drama, your worst friend group fallouts, your most unhinged office politics. Anonymity is guaranteed, but our brutal judgment is assured.
And please, send this episode to your most delusional bestie. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. The one who thinks she's going to meet her emotionally available soulmate at a club at 2 a.m. She needs to hear this psychological breakdown.
Thank you to the Snark Squad for tuning in. You are the reason we do this every week.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. We spend hours dissecting the narcissism, the manipulation, and the sheer delusion of these cast members. We judge them for their terrible choices. But aren't we, as the viewers, the ultimate enablers?
Ooh, getting deep.
By rewarding their most toxic behavior with our viewership, our engagement, our obsession, are we actually funding the very delusion we claim to despise? Are we the architects of the alternate reality they live in? Just something to think about while you're folding your laundry.
A terrifying and highly accurate thought.
Stay shady.
Stay iconic.
And we'll see you on the snark side.